10-minute rule motion, Yvonne Fovargue.
Mr Speaker, I beg to move that leave be given to bring a bill in to require fee-charging debt management companies to inform potential clients of the availability of free advice on debt management. I brought forward this bill to try and level the playing field between the fee-charging debt management companies who can spend a considerable amount of money on advertising and the free agencies who put all of their money into providing a service and consequently may not be as well known. In fact, Mr Speaker, a Google search for debt, advice, or even citizens' advice brings up 2 debt management companies as the first name on the list, and they promise, and I quote, to wipe off 75% of your debts. Individuals who are looking for a solution to their debts are essentially making a distress purchase. They've realised their debts are mounting, and they've made that difficult decision to seek help to deal with them. However, searching and deciding on a debt management solution isn't like looking for other services. Many people have struggled for a considerable time alone. They feel ashamed, and they haven't even told their family and friends. It's not like going to a neighbour and asking them to recommend a plumber. I've never yet heard of anyone asking their mates in the pub whether they've been in debt and who helped them get out of that. No, people turn to the internet, or advertisements, or even to the company who cold called them. If they're lucky, they go to a CAB, but very few have heard of PayPlan, National Debtline, or CCCS, all of whom can help with the free solutions tailored to the individual. So, Mr Speaker, what is the problem with the fee-charging debt management agencies, beyond the obvious contradiction of charging individuals in debt to get out of that debt? It's estimated that 375,000 people in the UK are on commercially provided debt management plans, costing them £250 million in debt management fees each year. CCCS estimate that for a debt of £30,000, a client of a debt management company pays £6,000 in fees to that company and extends the life of their debt for a further 18-month period. Unfortunately, too many of these companies take advantage of people when they're at their most vulnerable, and many people end up in a worse financial situation than when they first sought help. There's significant evidence of companies providing misleading information about their services. They claim to be able to write off debts and charges. They claim to give free advice when fees are involved. And there's also evidence of some payday lenders acting as an introducer to a debt management company. I mean, if this isn't a case of, well, we'll get you into debt, and then we'll tell you somebody that will pay you to get out of debt, I don't know what isn't. Some fee-charging companies, rather than promoting free debt advice, have actually been reported as telling callers that CAB are not specialist money advisors, don't deal with them on a one-to-one basis. One individual had signed up for a plan, approached a bureau for help, after the company refused to cancel the agreement within the 14-day cooling-off period. After the CAB intervened, the agreement was cancelled, but the company told the client that the bureau won't contact the creditors and that she risked court action by doing this. High management fees, particularly upfront fees, can be a particular problem. In one case, an individual was cold called by a debt management company and paid an upfront fee of £1,000 before receiving any advice at all. In fact, I had a constituent myself who paid £300 to a fee-charging debt management agency, only to find out that they had no disposable income and the agency actually referred them to my local CAB. So upfront fees aren't the only problem. Ongoing fees are also an issue, as the companies need to recoup their costs early in the life of the agreement. When I worked for an advice agency, I saw a client who'd been paying £80 a month to a debt management company for 6 months. Not one penny of that had gone to her creditors. She said she'd looked on the internet, contacted the company, she didn't know where to go, and she was considerably upset when she realised that her debt had actually increased despite those payments, as the interest hadn't been frozen. Also, debt management companies cannot and do not offer the full range of debt remedy solutions available to the individual. and indeed on occasion have even failed to inform them of the need to pay off their priority creditors first. A CAB client reported that she was encouraged to make offers via a debt management company to her non-priority creditors, for which they took a fee. And as a result, she struggled with her mortgage payments, fell behind into arrears, and is now worried about losing her home. Complaints to the Financial Ombudsman Service are rising. There's been 457 new complaints in 2010-11, and a staggering 54% were upheld in favour of the consumer. The complaints generally fall into two categories: poor administration, where people pay money over to the company, but it's kept in the company's accounts for a considerable time rather than being paid to the creditors, or, as I previously described, a high proportion of the money paid being retained by the company to cover their costs rather than being paid to the creditors. I believe that this demonstrates that it's not only the individuals who are suffering detriment, but also their creditors, who could be paid much more money more quickly. In the light of these issues, it's surely obvious that making people aware of free, quality agencies where all the money paid goes to the creditors will benefit both parties. An argument often used by the fee charging sector is that there's insufficient capacity in the free sector. And I do agree that this needs to be carefully monitored, and that a sustainable cross-governmental strategy for the provision of free debt advice is absolutely essential. However, there's been a recent partnership between CCCS and Citizens Advice, and that demonstrates that the agencies are actually working together to direct people to the most appropriate form of advice and ensure that the most expensive form of delivery, which is the face-to-face advice, is kept for the people who need it most, the most vulnerable, and that people don't have to turn to the fee-charging debt management sector through lack of availability of the free advice. It's my belief that no one should suffer through ignorance of services available to help them. And I believe that this measure will inform individuals of the full range of agencies able to support them, instead of allowing them to fall into the hands of some of the fee-charging companies who propel them into further debt and despair.